Hello guys, Alan here and welcome to the most authoritative REVIT tutorial channel here you can ever find on YouTube. Alright, so in today's video we are going to be actually creating a workflow of how we can actually render from start to finish inside the Enscape software. Alright, so we are going to be using the Enscape software as a tool for our rendering course in this episode, or in this series we are going to have on here on YouTube. So I'm going to be using this sample project I have in here to render. I'm going to be using this sample project inside of Enscape to actually render, and then we are going to take a couple of images and also a video inside our Enscape software. So we are going to be using this this sample project file I have in here for this tutorial we are going to have today. So I'm going to divide the video into parts so you guys can take your time and actually follow along with every step in the way. And also I'm going to be leaving a link inside the description where you guys can actually click on that link and you can be able to download this file I have in here. It's inside 2021 file, so you can download that and then use that in 2022 inside the REVIT 2022. Now any REVIT version below the REVIT 2021 is not going to open the file up, right? It's either you're using 2021 or any version above. So we are going to start working without wasting much time. I'm just going to walk you guys through. So now before we start, I actually have my Enscape installed already. I've already installed my Enscape. You can see in the ribbon right here I have Enscape in there. So I'm going to click on Enscape so you guys can see in there I have my Enscape installed inside there already. So you guys make sure you go online and make sure you have your Enscape installed. All right, you have to follow through with every process they have in there and make sure you have Enscape installed. Some of you guys might want to go get it from somewhere else. You can actually make sure you have your Enscape installed. That's the most important part before you be able to enjoy this series. You have to make sure you have Enscape, because we are going to be using Enscape to render, and Enscape is like the best rendering software, the first-hand best rendering software you can ever use. Forget about Lumion, forget about V-Ray. All right, Enscape is really hitting the market, and trust me, I've already fell in love with that software. So I'm going to be teaching you guys how we can actually achieve that. All right, for workflow we are going to use this building to actually achieve that. Now so we are going to start off, and one thing I want you guys to know, so let me just head straight into Google. Now before you install your Enscape software, all right, there are some key things you need to know. All right, you have to check your machine's spec. You need to make sure your machine has the minimum requirements or the recommended requirements to actually run the software. So make sure you go online and then you check with your computer and see the kind of softwares or the kind of updates your machine has, or your machine's GPU, whether your machine has a graphics card, the operating system. Make sure you check all of that before you can be able to install the Enscape software. So just go online and check that out yourself. Alright, so this is alright, by the way. So I'm going to minimize that, and then we are going to head straight into Enscape. So I'm first going to run my Enscape software. Alright, so I'm going to hit on start, and you can see it's going to open up. So I'm using the Enscape version 4.4.0.452 series. Alright, I have that installed on my computer. So I'm going to open that up, and let's see our building inside of Enscape for the beginning. So now you can see in here my building doesn't have any finish. Alright, it has no material in there. You can see it's just raw, having that black color. All right, so now how do we navigate around inside of Enscape? So it's actually very simple. You are going to be using the WASD keys. All right, so the WASD keys is what we are going to be using inside the Enscape software. So what you are going to use to actually go forward is the W. So I'm going to click on W on my keyboard, and you can see it's moving forward. All right, so now if I want to go back, what I'm going to use to go back is the S key. The S key, S for sit down, S key. So I'm going to click on the S key, and then you can see I'm moving right back out of the way. And then let's say if I want to go on my right side, I'm going to click on the D key, on my keyboard. So I'm going to click on the D key, and then you can see I'm moving all the way to the right there. And then let's say I want to move to the left, it's going to be the A key. So I'm going to click on my A key, and then you can see that I'm moving all the way to my left hand side, which is perfect. So that's how we navigate in there inside of Revit. And then if you want to view down, you just use the mouse pointer, all right, the mouse pointer key. So we can just click in there, and then we just use that to pan around and see our view. All right, we can just click in there, use that to pan around so we can see our view in there. Now let's say I want to go up. All right, I want to go up. I'm going to use the E. It's always going to be the E key on your keyboard. So just click on the E key on your keyboard, and you can see you are moving all the way up in there. You can see on top over there, I just made a flat roof with no roofing sheets, so you can see it in there. I've moved all the way up. I can go all the way up and even get the skies. I think I've never tried that before. I don't think you can ever reach to the skies we have in there. So now let's say I want to come down. I want to come down in there. What you have to click on is the Q on your keyboard, the Q for Queen on your keyboard. So we are going to click on the Q, and then you can actually use your mouse pointer to just click and hold to just pan around to the view you'd want that in. So I'm using the Q key on my keyboard to just come down a little bit. This is perfect. I think I'm okay with this. Okay, this is perfect. So now when you use any of these keys, all right, when you use any of these keys, let's say I want to go up, and then the going up is kind of slow for me. What you have to do is you need to hold down the shift key and then click on your up, and then you see it goes up very fast. And let's say I want to come down, just hold down the shift key, click on Q, and then you see it comes down very fast. But if I'm using the Q alone, you see it goes down slowly. So the shift key is what you add to it to make it very fast. All right, so let's say I want to go up, I just click on that and it goes up very fast. So I hold down the shift key and then hold the E, and then it goes up very fast. So I'm going to hold down the shift and then hold down the Q, and then this comes down very fast as well. So this is perfect. So now you can see my building is all raw, so I'm going to roam about in my building in there. So I've just held down the shift key and then my A on my A keyboard to just turn around on the building right there, so you guys can see what's happening in there. So this is perfect. Now one thing I usually do anytime I come into, I'm going to go back a little bit, hit on the shift to go back. Let me come down a little bit. Let me get to the side. This is perfect. This view is perfect. Now one thing I usually do is to make sure my perspective view is always on the 2-point perspective. So you just have to make sure you change that. All right, so you can just find something that looks like a triangle, an icon, all right, on this tab right here. Just click on the drop down menu right there, and when you leave it on perspective, this is how it's going to look like. All right, so at school, I guess you guys were able to learn the perspective views. All right, we have the normal view, we have the bird eye view, and then we have the worm eye view as well. So this is our perspective view. So I'm going to make sure you always leave it on 2-point perspective, or it's not 2-point perspective, just leave it at 2 point. All right, that is actually going to create and keep your building in a 2-point view, all right, which is very perfect for rendering. So we are going to leave it as it is. Now I'm going to show you guys what is going to happen if you keep that on orthographic projection. On orthographic, this is what is going to happen. We don't want that, so I'm going to keep that on 2 point. This is perfect. This is perfect for us. We need it on 2 point, which is perfect for us. So I'm going to be explaining all these icons you see in here, but before I do that, I'm going to minimize my Enscape 2. I'm going to minimize my Enscape 2 right there, and then I'm going to make sure I explain everything to you on this ribbon right here. So you can see in here I have pause live updates. So any changes you actually do on your 3D software, any changes you do on the building inside of Revit is actually going to affect everything that is going to happen inside the Enscape software. So let me show you guys what I'm talking about. So let me just head into architecture and let me just place in a component. So let me just place in this car right there. Let me leave this car somewhere here, which is perfect. Now let me head straight into my Enscape 2. Let me come down, shift. Let me come down a little bit. Now you can see I have a car in there. All right, so it means that, let me head into Enscape. So it means that anything I do in here is going to live sync into the Enscape software. So every changes, anything you touch in there is also going to change in the Enscape software. All right, so let me delete that out of the way, and then I want you guys to pay attention. So I'm going to click on pause live updates, and then I'm going to place the car in there again, and then let me head back into my Enscape software. You are going to notice I no longer have the car in here because I have paused my live updates, so it doesn't sync automatically with any changes that I do in here. Is going to affect into my Enscape software. All right, so we are going to pause that. We are going to pause that and hold on a little bit. So I'm going to delete that car out of the way, so we have that in there, and we can resume that by just clicking over there, and then we just resume our live update. So any changes we have done in here is automatically also going to change inside the Enscape software. So we have our synchronized view in the REVIT live camera. We are not going to use that. We have the render image. We have our asset library. So with our asset library, when you click on that, let me wait for that to open. That's where we are going to have every single library we are ever going to need for our rendering inside our software. So we have everything you can ever imagine. All right, we have some budgets in there, we have some glass, we have some wine glasses, we have goggles in there, we have some headsets, anything you can ever think of. So we have some hospital, so you can choose with the category of everything you want. We have some vegetations in there. You can choose the plants you want inside your software. We have some street props where we are going to get our entourage. All right, we are going to have some street signs and all that, and we have some sports props as well where you're going to find all your sports items. And then we have people, so there are lots of people you can actually choose and place inside the software. And we have furniture in there as well, so we can choose. Now their furnitures, trust me, they are high quality furnitures. I always usually use the Enscape family. All right, I don't even use the REVIT family. I just mostly use the Enscape family. I told you Enscape is the best rendering tool you can ever have. It's very simple, very easy, and renders very fast and gives you the perfect kind of renders you can ever imagine. So we have all these furnitures in there as well. So when we head straight into construction, we have all, so you guys can literally go in there and just find anything you are going to need. This is the outdoor unit of our air condition, and we have the dated unit, the cassette of also an air conditioner, our HVAC. We have that also in there. We have some CCTV cameras in there as well. Now you guys are going to notice I have this offline asset checked. So when you click on this offline asset over there, is actually going to download every single family in there for you, and it's going to save that on your computer. So it's going to be saved at your desktop on your computer in there. So everything you see in here is going to be displayed or is going to run on your internet. All right, you're going to need internet connection to actually see everything in there. But then when you click on offline, you can see I've already downloaded it. So I'm going to use a 16, and I can use my families even when my machine is not even connected to the internet. All right, because I've downloaded everything, so I'm using that offline. So I can use all these families even though my machine is not connected to the internet. It's very helpful. So make sure you do that. Make sure you can download it. So just check the offline for it to start downloading. We don't have any custom. I don't usually have any custom assets library in there, so we are perfect. And then with the Enscape material library, this is also another powerful tool. This is where we are going to have all the materials we are going to need, especially with our paints, our walls, our pavements, sand, gravels, grass, wallpaper, wood, all the kind of wood. So this also runs on the internet. It's going to need your computer. Your computer needs to be connected to an internet. It needs to have internet for you to be able to see all of this. So you're going to see we have all this in there. In actual fact, if we're going to use the REVIT library to actually do this, if we're going to use the REVIT software, we'd have to go online and now go and download every single every single material you see in here, but Enscape has made it very easy for us. They have all those material with high quality finishes, trust me guys. So you can see in there with the wood in there, we can actually select any one we want. So let's say I want to use this wood right there. So let's say I want a very rustic wood in there. Let me choose, okay, let me just choose something a little bit rustic. Okay, so I'm going to choose this wood 17. So make sure you pay attention to the name, all right? It's wood 17. So when you click on that wood 17, and then you just click on import selection, and then you can see in there it loads up into the software. So it's now inside the REVIT software. I'm going to be showing you guys in a bit. It's loaded inside your REVIT software. So it's inside the REVIT software. We are going to be using that in a minute. So I'm just going to show you guys. So we have bricks in there. You can actually see we have all the kind of bricks you ever need. So you can just select anyone that suits your view, anything you like in there, anything that's aesthetically pleasing for you. So with me, with the bricks, I'm going to be choosing a couple of bricks, but I'm just using this to explain this to you. So I'm going to close that, and then we have our Enscape material editor. All right, with this Enscape material editor, it's going to show us every single family, all right, every single material that is used inside the software. So every single material that I used in modeling up this building is going to be showed inside the Enscape material editor. All right, so we are going to have all those materials in there where we can actually make changes to all of them in here as well. So you can make changes to all of them in here. You can change the color, you can add the high mapping, reflection. We can do all of this stuff also in REVIT. All right, we can do all this stuff also in REVIT. So we have all this in there. We have the carpet, foliage, definitely. We have the grass, self-illuminate, and we have water in there as well, which is perfect. So I'm going to cancel that out of the way. So that's all you need to know inside the Enscape software. This actually don't really matter. What we are going to be using is actually just these three things, these three commands, these three icons we have in there, and then definitely going to live sync. Definitely we are going to live sync in there. So let's start off. So we are going to head into our 3D view. So I hope you guys have downloaded the file now. Make sure your file is opened up. We are going to start off. First, I'm going to head straight into the site plan. Let me see what I have in there. I'm going to head straight into the site plan, and then I'm going to let my building sit on a floor. All right, so I'm going to create a floor in there, and then I'm going to look for any floor. We have the generic 450. I'm going to duplicate, and I'm going to make this 150. I'm going to call this main floor. So make sure you pay attention to the names you're actually naming them. All right, head straight into the edit type, and then I'm going to change the thickness. I'm going to make that 150. Click on OK, and then we just click on this box sign right there, and then we are going to draw that to cover our building, which is perfect. And we are going to finish that, save the project. Make sure you guys always save. All right, so head straight into the 3D view, and then our building is sitting exactly where we want it to sit, which is perfect. So let me head straight into the site. I'm going to extend my walls. All right, I'm going to extend the floor. I'm going to extend that floor slab in there. I'm going to extend, but I'm going to bring this forward a little bit, and I'm going to extend it a little bit wider, and I'm going to finish that. This is perfect. Now I'm going to head back into Enscape. I'm going to resume the live sync and then run back into my Enscape. So you can see in there our building is actually not sitting directly on that floor slab right there, which is bad. So I'm going to reduce that, and let's just check that problem. Let's just click on that, and then with our height offset, make sure it's 0, and then just click on that, and let's head back into our Enscape. And this is perfect. We have our building sitting directly on the floor slab right there, sitting directly on the floor slab. This is perfect. Let me just go straight in there. Now, one thing, if you want the view to actually stand like a human being actually really standing, all right, what you can do is just hit on your space bar, and then you see it stands right there. It stands in there, and then you can just move around in there. Just click on your shift, and then you can just move around in there with see our camera view standing in there. We can enter into, you can't enter into the building if it's on the standing view. All right, it's on the human view because we've clicked on our, we've just hit on the space bar. So we are going to move, we are just going to move around this building. Let's head back a little bit. Let's see what we have in there. So this is perfect. Let's come back a little bit. So we fall down, we've actually fall down from our floor slab. So let's just go up a little bit and let's head straight into our floor slab. Just make sure we are somewhere around in the floor slab, and then we are going to hit on our space bar, and perfect, we are standing directly on that floor slab right there. So this is good to go. So we are going to reduce our Enscape. We are going to pause live updates. We are going to pause live updates, and then we are going to make sure we start off, we are going to start off with our rendering. We are going to start rendering. We are going to start some serious rendering in there. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to head into my Enscape material editor. So I'm going to look for some sort of, like, let me just search in here for metal. I can actually get that in REVIT. So let me just search for metal. It's not giving me anything. Let me just cancel everything out of the way. We have that in there, metal. So you can actually choose. I think I don't want to use any of these aluminum metals, these steel metals they have in there. I don't prefer any of them. I'm not going to use any of these steel metals. All right, I'm not going to use any of them. So now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start with this curtain wall. So I'm going to hit on tab on my keyboard. Just make sure you hit on tab on your keyboard and select any of them, the mullions in there, and then we head straight into edit type. When we head straight into edit type, we are going to find materials. All right, you can see in there, we're going to click right beside that material in there. We are going to have a pop-up menu, and we are going to search for metal. All right, we're going to search for metal, the black. Let me just search for something. BMW M6 custom body top. Wow, this is crazy. So let me just search for black. I want something a little bit rustic. Okay, so I'm going to use this. I don't care whether it's a BMW M6 custom black metal. Let me just add metal to it. Let me see what's going to happen. Let me just reduce that black. All right, this is perfect. Okay, so I'm going to use the BMW. Let me just use the custom body top black. All right, use appearance. We're going to use appearance. Let me just reduce that, and then we are going to make sure we get into appearance. Let's see what's going to look like. We wanted the flicks. We're going to leave it as it is. We like the color just as it is, and graphics. Perfect. So make sure you always check the use render appearance. Is very, very important. Make sure you've checked that. So we are going to hit on OK, and we're going to hit on apply in there, and let's just head straight into our Enscape. Let's see what we have in there. Okay, let's reduce that. Let's resume our live sync. Let's see what we have, and let's get in there. So you can see in there, let me just hit on my shift key. You can see in there we have our mullions changed to that black color in there. Let me go up a little bit so you guys see what I'm talking about. E, and you can see in there our mullions are changed to that black color, which is very, very beautiful. To that metal black color, which is very, very beautiful in there. I'm going to go back all the way in here. Let me check around. So this is perfect. So I'm going to reduce that. I'm going to pause live sync. I don't want it to automatically change while I'm working. All right, so we are going to be placing some trees all around in our scene in here. We are going to place some trees all around in there. We want to cover the area in there because we don't want to be seeing that floor in there inside of Enscape. So we are going to cover that. I'm going to hit on space bar. We don't want to see all this ash gray ground, so we are going to cover that with trees. All right, we are going to be placing in a lot of trees, guys. We are going to be placing in a lot of trees, lots of trees in there. So I'm going to reduce that, by the way. I'm going to head back into the ground floor plan. Let me just go into the 3D view. Let me see what I have in there. And I'm also going to change the window framings as well to that metal material. We're going to use the same metal material, the BMW M6 body top. So we are going to click on edit, and we are going to head straight into materials. I think I just escaped my materials. Let me just see what we have in there. Oh guys, so we cannot change the material for this window. Okay, I think we can't change the material for this window. We can't change the material, which is terrible, guys. So we can't change the material for this window. Let me just see what we have in there. With our energy analytics, it's going to head straight into the internet. Going to give us everything about that. Green building properties. We have the green LED. We don't need that. And we can change the material for that window. So let me check this window. Head straight into edit type. And perfect. We have it in there. We have those in there as well. So we have the material and finishes in here. So with the wood, you're gonna use, let's just use the metal. All right, let's just use the metal in there. Let me just use the metal. So you're gonna click on metal black, and let's use this one, the same one as well. Let's just click on apply. Click on apply. Let me change the rest as well. So we see we have another wood in there. I'm going to change that as well. So we're going to change that. Let's call this metal black. Let's just change this also to the metal black top in there. Use render appearance is checked. Hit on apply. Hit on apply and hit on OK in there. So this is perfect. Now I'm going to bring back my Enscape view. And I'm going to resume my live sync. I'm going to resume that. So it's resumed in there. And let me head back into the Enscape view. Let me scroll all the way to the window part. Let's see what we have. Let's see what we have. It hasn't changed inside of our software in there. It hasn't changed. Let's see why. Let's reduce that. Pause live sync. Let's check this window out. Edit type and material and finishes. We've changed that. It's not changed in our building. Alright, so with the paint finish, let's just change that as well. Let's just make that a metal black. Let's just make that metal black in there. Let's say metal black top. Let's just change that. The metal finish. Let's change all those finishes. It's actually going to be the metal, but the painting finish is what is going to cover it. So let's just change all of that. And with the frame too, we are going to change that. I want everything to be as black as they can. So let's just keep everything on the same thing. I want to use the same thing. I want to use the same thing. So I'm going to hit on OK, hit on apply, and then OK in there. So I'm going to open that, and you can see it's changed perfectly now inside there. It's changed inside there, and all the other windows is changed. So you can actually change that to whatever you want. Alright, but if you're following through with the tutorial, I think it's best you do exactly what I'm also doing, guys. Just do exactly what I'm also doing. So with this window, I discovered I can't even change the material for this window. So I'm going to leave it as it is. I'm not going to touch anything on this window. I'm going to leave it just as it is. I'm going to hit on my space bar. Okay, so this is perfect. I'm going to reduce my Enscape. I'm going to pause my live updates because it's actually going to make my system run very fast and going to keep my system very slow sometimes. Okay, so we are done with the windows and also done with the mullions for this. We've changed that to the desired material we want it to be. We've changed that to that desired material, and I'm going to end here, and I'm going to continue in the next part where we are going to actually be putting in some materials, and then we are going to follow through on how we can actually start rendering and make our design come out very beautiful. So I'm going to pause here. Make sure you guys have followed through to every step in the way to the very end here, and make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. It's going to help me out a lot. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out. I'm still working real hard on a Saturday. A future I don't see from a mile away.